Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Jeff Porter,
Hey, I'm Kyle West.
and we are now Cinema Shack. I don't
It's
know. I don't know if
it,
anybody else is still out there, but we're using the same Twitter, social media, kind of getting away from the Shut Up I Like This, but still doing Shut Up I Like This worthy movies. So
it's been a while, Jeff. It's been too long since we've sat down and recorded a podcast. Like you said, we're changing up the format a little bit. We're going to an audio only kind of podcast. We're going to try to keep it a little shorter, but we really love movies. So we still might be here for an hour and a half
I'm
talking about
I'm
Candyman.
I'm worried about it. I'm worried. We were talking a little bit before we started, and we started going
Yeah,
down some rabbit holes already. Um,
that's my
so
favorite thing to do. I
yeah,
love pulling them. I love pulling up IMDb on a movie and being like, I like this director or I like this actor. What else are they in? And then you just start scrolling and you start clicking, and you're like, holy shit! Did you know this guy was in blah 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 blah?
I've
Well,
wasted many of nights doing that.
yeah.
And just sitting there scrolling forever. Um, so today we're starting with Candyman from 1992, a film
Candyman,
that don't say it anymore. Um,
Candyman.
stop. We both this is one that we both really enjoy. You and I grew up pretty much watching horror films from a very early age,
Oh yeah.
which is I'm on the fence about doing now with my own kids. It's crazy how I'm like, oh, I don't know.
I have been encouraging Jeff to let his daughters watch horror movies because I'm like, I was that age.
That's
Go
yeah,
ahead,
exactly.
go ahead and traumatize them, Jeff.
Yeah, I was 6 when I saw Hellraiser.
Yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah,
never
yeah.
been the same, but
I told it the story on a way, way earlier podcast we did, but Puppet Master was one of the first horror movies I remember watching on HBO.
terrifying
Yeah.
when you're that young.
Oh yeah, and I was right around that age too, 6 or 7.
Mm.
Way too young to watch Puppet Master, but
Did it
it
anyway.
was. Oh yeah, it was good shit.
So with Candyman, like I said, it came out in 92. Kind of do you remember kind of the first time seeing it, and then what was it like rewatching it now?
So I picked. This was actually my pick was to do Candyman. And we'll we'll say here we are going to be doing a podcast about the new Candyman that's going to be
Absolutely.
coming out here in a couple weeks as of this recording. So this was another one along with Puppet Master. Is that Candyman was one of the first horror movies that I remember watching as a kid. And so it's always had a soft spot in my heart because of that. Because, like, hey, this is one of those movies that got me into horror in general. And I don't remember how old I was. I'm gonna guess maybe around 10,
Yeah.
9, 10, somewhere in that age group. And this movie absolutely terrified me as a kid because it felt just so gritty and disgusting in
Very
places.
disgusting.
And every time I watch this movie as an adult, I like it a little more. Like every time I watch it, I'm like, this movie's great. I fucking love it. And I can see why because it's there's a certain rawness to it. I'm talking about the scenes uh the bathroom scene that we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
Like that's disgusting in a way that like Freddy and Jason are not that kind of disgusting.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
yeah.
I think that's fair to say.
Definitely. Definitely. Like of all the kind of those slasher characters, Candyman really fucks with you psychologically. Like he
Yeah.
really gets into like Freddy kind of fucks with you a little bit. He'll tell
The
jokes like
first one
right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
the first one was the scariest of the bunch, and then they
yeah.
kind of,
He's more of a
you know,
jokester, more of like a
right,
Joker character.
right.
And Jason, he'll just stab you. Like it's very
You,
simple.
you're
Michael,
even as a kid, you're rooting for Jason or Freddy.
well, yeah.
You
Well,
know what I mean?
Jason for sure.
For sure, you're
Yeah.
rooting for him. Not so much in Candyman. Like
Right.
the imagery in Candyman is like you don't want to see him.
Yeah.
when you're watching it, because it's disturbing. When the hook where he opens up his chest
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
see
yeah.
all the bees and shit that are on
Right.
him, like, oh man, that's fucked up.
Watching it now, it's been a long time since I've seen it. I think probably the last time I was in middle school or something. Like
Oh wow.
oh yeah, it's been a while. Like the AMC horror month during
Ooh.
Halloween. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
sure
yeah.
that's the last time I saw it. And that was on TV. So it's been a very long time. And rewatching it, I forgot a lot. Like you said,
Mhm.
it is so graphic and in a way that really fucks with you and gets under your skin. Like when you see Freddy and Jason, like they'll fuck you up, they'll cut an arm off, they'll stab you,
Mhm.
whatever. This guy's cutting off dicks. He's shooting bees out of his mouth. He's really going up the spine, really slow, and like you
Oh,
hear him
yeah.
grunting, like, and you just feel it's very a word that we've used a lot in the other podcast is visceral. It was very visceral,
Mhm.
and it makes it really gritty and scary. Um, the way that I remembered it, though, I remembered there being more more kills. I remember it being a little
Right.
bit more because when you're watching it, I think he probably kills 3 or 4 people in the movie.
I didn't keep count, but
He kills
it's a
yeah,
fairly low number of people that he actually
yeah, yeah, he kills her friend. He kills,
the
the kid in the restaurant or the bathroom.
yeah, when she's in the institution, the hospital, whatever, he kills the head psychologist,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
doctor
yeah,
guy.
yep, at his
And
desk.
then she breaks out and goes out the window.
Right.
But then Virginia Madsen's husband, boyfriend, whatever you want to call him,
She
well,
kills him.
she's the one that kills him, so that don't count. Uh, then the dog, but
Oh, yeah,
you don't see the dog.
right,
You don't really know what happened in that
yeah.
part. So it's a fairly low. I kept count because I was watching it on my tablet because I paused it and I sent you a message on the computer where I was like, dude, it's 44 minutes into this movie and the runtime is an hour 39. It's 44 minutes into it before you see Tony Todd.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a long
That is a
time. It really builds up
that
the
is a
suspense.
that's a slow burn and I like that. I like that restraint.
You couldn't do it now. So I'm curious as to how
I'll
they're
be
gonna do it for
curious.
2021.
I know. I
Because
think it'll be a slow burn too, I think.
I hope so. It's just you don't see that with film nowadays, which is,
You don't.
unfortunate.
I
Um,
was I was thinking about that too. That was a topic I wanted to touch upon. Is like I'll be curious in the new one if you make Candyman today. Yeah, I almost feel like they have to put him in the opening
there's
5 minutes of the movie, otherwise people are gonna get pissed off. And that's what I love so much about this movie is the fact that it is such a slow burn and build up because you've gone through all the imagery that is really my favorite part of the movie is when she's going through that rundown
yeah,
apartment building with all the graffiti. She goes through like the image in my mind of her going through the hole in the wall, and then she comes out the other side, and it's his mouth.
yeah,
Like, I mean, that is scarier than
yeah,
almost anything else you could have done with Tony Todd.
yeah. Even if you had, like long I mean, you kinda see, a couple of images, like, in the mirror on the camera and stuff, which never gets brought back up
Yeah,
again. Yeah,
right.
it's just, like, lost, but, um, you don't even, like you don't give us long shots of, like, him from the back or the side, you just don't see anything except for that imagery, and then all of a sudden, he appears in that parking garage, and it's
Mhm.
just like, there he is.
Oh, and when he shows up in that parking garage, like that's a good scene.
Yes,
That's
very,
a yeah,
I
that's an
was,
iconic scene.
like you, I was on IMDb and stuff, and I was looking through reviews and trivia and all that other stuff. And I saw a lot of people, which I think this is brilliant. I saw a lot of people comparing it to like Dracula. where
Okay.
Candyman kind of has that, he's looking for that forbidden love kind of thing. Dracula is out looking for the love. He's got that very charismatic and soft demeanor, but at the same time, he'll cut your dick off and throw it in the toilet. Like I
That's a
th-
very that's a very fair comparison because you feel like there's a weird sort of attraction
Mhm.
between Virginia Madsen and Tony Todd
I've got
in the
trivia for
movie.
that.
Yes. And so that's what is like, she doesn't, obviously, this ruins her whole life.
Mhm.
She doesn't want this to happen to her. But in a way, in those moments where she's being hypnotized by him, it's like you said, that's very Dracula. That's a good comparison.
I
I
thought it
like
was
that.
great.
Yeah.
I can't take credit, but yeah, I was reading through it. I probably saw 3 or 4 people mention that, and the first time I read it, I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then I read it again, and then I started thinking about it, and he's even got the long trench coat that kinda looks like, the Dracula's
The
cape
Dracula
kinda
cape.
thing,
Yeah.
and, it makes a lot of sense now, and especially at the end when you find out that he's trying to, uh, essentially recruit her to be his lover forever and immortality and
Yes.
stuff. Very Dracula-ish.
Right.
And speaking of that, you were talking about their chemistry back and forth. In the trivia, I was actually reading that together, Tony Todd and Virginia Madsen took ball dancing lessons to kind of get
Oh,
closer
cool.
to each other and
Oh,
have that
cool.
intimacy. So I thought that was really cool. Like, what a weird little thing to do for a horror film, but you could see it,
It
like you were
fits.
saying.
It
Yeah,
it fits because it's a weirdly romantic notion to it, which, this is based on the short story The Forbidden by Clive Barker, which, if you're familiar with any of Clive Barker's work, that's a theme that kind of pops up in a lot of his stories, of kind of this forbidden romance, this kind of twisted love story
yeah.
almost. And it's also interesting too, just the fact that you don't see him until 44 minutes into it is a parallel that you can draw to Hellraiser, which is another short,
Yeah,
which is
yeah, yeah,
another
yeah.
short, which is another short story by Clive Barker, The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker, where you don't see the Cenobites for a long
A long
time
time.
in that movie.
Probably about the same. Probably about 45 minutes.
Essentially, when you tell people the Cenobites in Hellraiser, you're at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
That's the scenes that people remember, and it's very cool the way, if you're a fan of Clive Barker, that you can tell that
And again with
this
the
is
forbidden
this is
love, because
based on him.
you have Frank doing all of that just to be with his brother's wife.
Yeah,
Another
yeah,
forbidden
yeah,
love triangle. So
right.
yeah, you get that back and forth again.
Interesting parallel too is that the best Candyman movie, not counting the new one because we haven't seen
Yeah.
it yet, but like the best Candyman movie and the best Hellraiser movie are the first ones, because they are based on
The short
Clive Barker,
stories.
the short story by Clive Barker. And immediately when he's not involved with them, they go to shit
Yeah.
pretty quickly.
Pretty quick. Yeah, yeah, yeah. By
Yeah.
Hellraiser 4, you've got Superman in there playing video games. So it gets crazy.
Yeah.
If nobody knows, in Hellraiser, I think it's for Hellraiser 4, Henry Cavill, because they go in, it's the video game is the pathway to hell or whatever. And yeah, Henry
Oh,
Cavill's in that.
that's Hellraiser Hellworld.
Hell World. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hellworld. Because I have the movie poster for that. I got the movie poster for that one when I worked at the video store. I hadn't even seen the movie, because I remember the tagline says "Evil goes online."
Yes. Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's yeah. It's like Pinhead with the Matrix. You remember like the Matrix looking shit,
Oh yeah,
where
the
it was green with the Matrix code.
right, right, right.
They gave him that stupid look for this movie.
That was the poster?
That was the poster.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. Well,
Uh,
I guess at that time, a lot of the other actors and stuff were nobodies. So,
yeah.
but yeah, Henry Cavill, if you want to see early
I
Superman,
I honestly did not know Henry Cavill was in that movie.
yeah, that was
I've seen
2005.
I've seen that movie, but
Yeah,
yeah, it was
we
2005.
should fucking watch it. I would
We're gonna have
love
to
to watch it.
we're gonna have to watch that now.
That's fun.
Of course, why would I? Pre-Superman, you wouldn't know who Henry Cavill. At least
Immortals.
I wouldn't know who Henry Cavill was pre-Superman. So.
The only reason I knew who he was I didn't know who he was when I watched that movie, but in 2011, he did Immortals. And I remember 11, 11, 11 is the year I graduated. I really love mythology and stuff, and I went to go see Immortals, and Henry Cavill was the main guy. That's kind of my first remembrance of him. But
I need to give that flick another
yeah,
shot.
he did some crazy stuff before Hellraiser 4.
If I could have Henry Cavill autograph any piece of merchandise now
Poster.
it's going to be the movie poster for Hellraiser Hellworld.
That would be amazing.
I bet he would love that.
I bet he would get such a kick out of that. That's hilarious.
Fuck.
Before we go too far, though, I real fast, I want to jump back to the beginning, just because somebody that you and I both recognize and love, Ted Raimi, is in the very beginning of this film.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Ted.
I wanted to bring that up just because as soon as I saw him, I'm like, oh, look, there's Ted.
I wanted to bring that up too. I forgot about it, so I'm glad you looped back to it. When I was rewatching the movie for the podcast and I seen that Ted was in it, I was like, oh, this is meant to be a Kyle and Jeff podcast movie, because of course it's got Ted Raimi in the opening of it.
Yeah, gotta have some Ted, and it's kind of cool. Sam Raimi, he's got a new Netflix thing coming out. He's producing.
Does he?
A nightmare book or scary book or night book or
scary stories or something.
It's something to do. It's a witch like makes this kid write scary stories every night or he dies.
Oh, so based on a true story.
yeah. It's based on some novel, but yeah, Sam Raimi's producing it. But yeah, so we just wanted to mention Ted. Tony Todd, of course. I think we should probably talk a little bit about him.
We have to give him credit. We have to give him a lot of credit, because I think the bulk of what makes this movie work is Tony Todd's performance.
Just that voice.
Yes, his voice. If you don't have his voice, this movie doesn't work. It's such an iconic. I put him up there with your Robert Englunds, your Kane Hodders, he's in that top 5 of just actors who have portrayed iconic horror movie villains. That's Tony Todd.
And he just loves to make these movies. Like, if you even look now, I mean, in 2020, 2021, he's making, I don't even know what this is, but it looks amazing. The House Next Door. Oh, that's a comedy, but that looks silly. But I mean, like, he's still got a whole bunch of stuff. Insight, The Lockdown, Hauntings. Like, he's still doing all these little.
He voiced a character in the Kevin Smith He-Man and the Masters of the Universe Revelations.
Really?
Cartoon series that just came out on Netflix.
Oh yeah, Scareglow. And he's also
and he channels his inner Candyman when he does Scareglow. It is fantastic.
He's in one of my favorite movies, The Crow. That for the longest time, like, I didn't even realize it was him. I don't know why.
No kidding.
Yeah. There were so many people in The Crow. I probably because I was so young the first time I saw it, and then I just kept watching it. Then they were just those characters. But then I was like, oh my god, like, there's so many other cool. Ernie Hudson's in this movie and stuff, and I never put it together until I was like 19. I'm like, what the hell is happening? There's a Ghostbuster in The Crow.
Man, you weren't kidding. There's 5 movies that are completed, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 movies in pre-production that he's involved with. Like, he is active still. I like that.
Yeah, he's doing a ton of stuff, and he does, like you said, he does a lot of voice work. He does television. He was in that Seth MacFarlane thing in the Orville. He was in The Flash. Like, he's just still going. He does everything.
Man. He voiced Darkseid in The Death and Return of Superman.
That's amazing.
That's perfect.
Yeah, there's not much that he hasn't done. I'm trying to think. There was we might have to talk about this. That was really terrible, but I would watch it again. The Kane Hodder film where he got Bill Moseley, he got but everybody. He got like it was supposed to
I
be like
haven't.
the Expendables of horror.
I forgot about that one. I forgot that that even came out.
Yeah,
Is it good? Is it any good?
awful, completely awful. But I would love to watch it just because it's fun, just because everybody's in it. I can't remember if he's in
Right.
it or not. I think he might have like a small part, but I think he was in that too. But that might be something worth talking about. I think it was called Death House, maybe. Yep,
I
Death
don't.
2017.
Wow.
So yeah, oh yeah, Tony Todd, Bill Moseley, Kane Hodder, Dee Wallace, Sid Haig, Michael Berryman, Gunnar Hansen. Um,
It's you know, it's sad that we're getting to the point that we're starting to lose some of our horror icons too, because there's a couple of those that you mentioned that have passed away now, like
yeah,
Sid.
Sid.
That
Yeah.
was a big loss. He was a really good icon of the horror industry, especially Captain Spaulding
Oh, of course.
really showed how good he was. And
It'll be interesting now. Um, because Jordan Peele, he's been doing a lot of the with Get Out, and he wrote the new Candyman.
yeah,
Um, Us. So it'll be interesting to see kind of that. It's the same thing we're doing with the action heroes right now. Like the action heroes of the
we're
80s are still the action heroes of today, but they're like
right.
70. And it's like,
Yeah,
when are we going to have a new wave? Is it going to go away for
I mean,
70 years and come back?
we this would be a fun discussion to have just as a podcast by itself. But I really feel like
Superhero movies
wow,
or the new
are
action?
are killing everything else at the box office. Yes, that is correct. No, I was gonna say about horror in general is that I really do feel like horror movies are better now than they've ever been before. I mean, you look at some of the work that like James Wan has
Yeah,
done, the horror movies,
Insidious
horror.
and
Yes, Jordan Peele. You look at some of the work that he's came out with. These movies are gonna hold up and be better than like anything that Friday the 13th ever did. And I love Jason, but those movies, if you I'm gonna get shit for this. If you go back and watch them, eh, you know, they're not always the best. They kind of rushed a lot of those movies out.
well, the sequels for
The
sure.
sequels, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
I feel like movies like The Conjuring, like that's gonna hold up in the long run better than what
Not so much the sequels.
I really like some of the sequels. I mean, they're not as good as the first one, but
Right.
you know.
What about so with the new one? We kind of have spoken about it a little bit before we started recording, but I'm not very good with his name. I think it's Yaha Abdul Mateen. He was Black Manta in Aquaman. When I first heard that this was announced, I thought he was going to be Candyman,
Right.
which I think I've said it too many times now. But
Well, yeah, I don't see a mirror, so I
there's
think
one
you're
on the
fine.
door back there.
But you weren't looking into it.
Yeah, that's
so.
true. Fair enough. Fair enough. But I thought he was cast as Candyman, and now that the like we were talking about the trailers, the photos on IMDb, everything that's pointing at it, I think he's just the main character. Like just
I think so
like
too.
one of the guys that's going to get killed, which leads to
I
speculation. Who
I
is
am real.
Candyman?
I am real. Spoilers. I mean, it. It's. We think Tony Todd. Tony Todd is in the new Candyman.
I'm pretty confident, but like I mean, we don't know. But based on
I,
IMDb and based on the trailers, based on the photos, we
a
don't
little bit of
see a lot of Candyman. We see a lot of Yaha Abdul Mateen.
Uh, I am beyond hyped for the new Candyman movie. Like, there are two movies coming out for the remainder of this year that I am super, super excited for: Candyman and Dune. Like,
Yeah, Dune looks great.
those are my two that like I am down for. And so Candyman comes out as of this recording next week.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it.
So here's a question for you, because we've seen a lot of these. This isn't technically like a remake. It's called a spiritual sequel to the first one.
Right.
So while it's not really a remake, but back in 2010, around 2012-ish, stuff like that, when we got the newer versions of like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, were you as excited for those as you are for this?
Honestly, no. And the reason why is it comes down to, you look at the trailer for this new Candyman movie, and it looks like a piece of art. You can tell that the people behind this are incredibly talented. They had a story to tell, and they wanted to make a we want to make a movie. And I'm gonna knock like the Friday the 13th reboot, the 2009 one, was actually really good, and I actually really like that movie. So I won't knock that one too much. But like the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot literally felt like, we have to make this reboot because everyone else is making this reboot. We really don't give a shit. We're just making another Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And so I was really not that excited for those. This one is doing the awesome. This one and Halloween Kills, not Halloween Kills, just
Yeah,
Halloween,
Halloween.
uh, yeah, are doing this brilliant thing where we're embracing the history of the franchise. We're bringing in Jamie Lee Curtis. We're bringing in John Carpenter to help work on the score.
Even look at Cobra Kai. Like that's the
Yeah,
way to do it. If you're gonna
right,
tell these stories, continue the stories or find a way to meld them together. We don't need a clean reboot every time.
right. The new Candyman, if we're bringing in Tony Todd, probably. Where it sounds like there might be a cameo by Virginia Madsen, or her
Yeah.
character might be referenced.
So
Uh,
that's something I want to mention real fast before we get off of
okay,
that. So when we talk about Virginia Madsen and like either referencing her or maybe even, who knows, maybe we'll see an appearance. Will we get if you look in the mirror and say Helena 5 times, like, will that be the reference? Or will it
has to
be,
be,
okay,
has to be, because from my understanding is that the first movie, the '92 movie that we're talking about right now, took place. Like, it in universe,
mm-hmm.
that happened, and then we're jumping forward to current time, and we're telling a new story.
Right. So with
Uh,
that reference, is it going to be that, or is it going to be like, are they going to know that like this lady went crazy, killed a bunch of people, and now there's a rumor that she's with Candyman, or is it going
I
to
don't,
be? Are we
I
going to?
don't, I don't know how deep down that well they're
Yeah,
they're willing to go with that. That's what'll be fun. That's what's fun to find out, and that's what I'm excited about. I'm also excited because we don't know. Would you say the Aquaman actor that played Black Manta?
yeah,
We're uh, we're we're assuming that Tony Todd is probably going to be Candyman
yeah.
in this
I
movie.
definitely think so. I think that's what everything's pointing to.
Will there be a
I
will
knew.
something happen, and will he end up being the new Candyman?
That's not a bad idea.
That
That's not a
because
bad idea.
that's what I think is probably going to happen. Because
That
if
would
you're
be
going
all
to
right. And then
because
we,
if you're going to franchise this shit, we're kind of passing the torch. We're passing the torch from Tony Todd to another competent actor, and you can roll with that. You can do another movie with that.
I like that. I like that idea. I think this could be, that would be good. A passing of the torch to Black Manta to be Candyman. I think, and this would be a good way to for Tony Todd. to kind of like
Right.
walk away from the character. He wouldn't be disrespected or anything, or like
See,
just completely recast without anything. At least bring him
and
back and let him
and
pass
I
it.
think that that's what a lot of fans were pissed off with about like Friday the 13th,
Yeah,
is that we want Kane Hodder to be Jason.
right.
The actor Derek, I can't remember what's his last name, that they cast in the 09 one. He did a good job as Jason, but you as a fan, we still wanted Kane Hodder. We wanted Freddy versus Jason to be that send off of
Yeah, that's
Robert
right.
Englund and Kane Hodder, and they didn't do it. And then so that kind of soured it. And I love the way that, like I said, it's brilliant that they're bringing back Jamie Lee Curtis for Halloween. They're bringing back Tony Todd, and we're giving them, us fans, an opportunity to like, hey, this ties in with what you love, but we're moving it forward so the franchises can continue without just shitting all over everything that came before it. I like that. I like that a bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. The Freddy versus Jason thing with because you still had Robert Englund, but then that Ken guy came in,
Yeah.
and it wasn't.
That's
You didn't get that proper send off.
it should have been, and I know we're not doing a Freddy vs. Jason podcast,
Right, right,
but
right.
everyone agrees it should have been Kane Hodder and Robert Englund, especially because they were rebooting both franchises real shortly afterwards. There's no reason that that couldn't have been the final blow between the original continuity, like the original franchises, coming to head, and then we're going to reboot them anyway and recast, so
Yeah,
it don't matter. But I don't know. We could do a whole podcast on Freddy
right.
vs. Jason,
I mean,
and we probably should.
yeah, once we start talking about this stuff, it just kind of goes off.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
going back to Candyman real fast, let's kind of
Right.
bring this to an end. So
Right.
I'll ask you kind of what's your favorite either like what's your favorite scene or like what's your favorite kind of like lore of Candyman?
Uh, I do love the way it's really, there's a deep backstory to the character that's really only kind of touched upon in the movie. Like you said, the forbidden love and the whole getting burned and his ashes being spread out, and so now he haunts this area.
Right.
And I like the fact that that is, it's
Not
not
gone
told,
into detail and
it's not told in a flashback. Like
oh yeah.
we don't spend the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes of the movie in a flashback showing us all this. I like the way it's told through, hey, an urban legend, and did you hear this part? And
Right.
this is what we think, and you kind of,
Have to piece it together.
you piece it together. They know that we're not stupid as an audience, and we
That's
can
a good point.
we can understand this, because I like that.
That's a good point. That's really
I think
good.
that's what's cool about the character, is that even though this is the first film you've seen him in, it feels like there's a much richer, deeper mythology to the character. And I wonder if that's part of the reason why you can get away with not showing Tony Todd for 44 minutes of the movie, because you feel like you've already seen the character, because you're already invested in him
Yeah.
through the lore and that they've told. So that's what I think is so brilliant about this movie.
That's really good. I was That's really good. I was just gonna
Yeah,
say one of the stupid scenes that I liked.
go
I think
for it. No, because I
man.
know what scene you're going to talk about.
I know, but I can't follow that. Um so yeah, the scene, I don't know, I'm not saying it's like my favorite scene, but it's one that definitely stuck out to me as I was rewatching this because first of all, they're dropping the word retarded like it's no big deal, which is
It's,
like
hey,
it's
1992.
right. Yeah, yeah. No, it's kind
92.
of refreshing at the same time. It's like, oh yeah, people used to say that a lot more leniently. Um, but yeah, there's that whole other backstory about like how this, as the other kids said, she's like, was he silly? Like, no, he was retarded. And his mom was yelling at him in the store or something, and he went across the street to go to the bathroom, and Candyman got him, and it's like 3 sentences, and this kid explains that like he cut his thing off and it was floating in the toilet, and that quick flashes to this kid, and there's blood everywhere towards his crotch and stuff. And then like that's it. That's all you hear about it. And then she goes into the bathroom to investigate. She opens it and it's filled with all the bees. And then yeah, that's just kind of a weird, like one of those weird stories that like gets told, and then you find out that it's real. And it's just, and I do like how Candyman is this myth and legend, but then he had those guys kind of doing his dirty work for him, so to speak, so that they got caught. And then but because she exposed him, then
I also like the way you're not 100% sure if they are even really involved.
real,
Well,
right?
no, well, that'd be cool,
That would be
but you
cool.
you don't even know 100%. Are they like servants of him or something? Or
Right.
are they just
And
using are
yeah, imitating
yes.
to try to get away with it. And
You
yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah.
really you don't really know, and that's up to you. Can think what you think, and I think what I think, and there's no wrong answer to that.
Which is really, I mean, this is what horror movies, it's amazing what they can do. It's like it really
Yeah.
makes you think.
Because those are the best movies in general, is
It,
when you leave the movie and you can go, hey, like Inception. I think that's what makes Inception such a fun movie. I can go, hey, Jeff, what did you think of this, and that? And what's your
right.
interpretation? And you can be like, oh man, I didn't think of that. Like, that's cool. That's cool that you thought of it like that.
Yeah, there's a couple of moments in this film that are like that. So yeah, let's wrap this up
Okay.
for Candyman. Is there any kind of final thoughts you want to say about it? Um,
I would encourage everyone, before you see the new one, to watch this movie, because I feel like you'll probably be able to go into the new movie without knowing anything about the OG 92 Candyman. But it sort of also feels like where if you watched this one, you'll probably be able to pick up on some cool Easter eggs and some cool little tidbits of story that will make your viewing experience for the new one even better. And I'll also say it. If I was to make a list of my top 10 favorite horror movies of all time, Candyman's on that list. I don't quite know where yet. I'd have to think about it, but I love this movie. I think it's a little underrated. I don't think it gets enough credit
yeah,
for being as good as what it is.
yeah, definitely. And on that, I think we'll end it. So thank you guys. If anybody is still listening, or if anybody is still listening from our shop, I like this days.
Let
Yeah,
us know.
it's good to be back. Yeah, I'm excited. We've got some cool ideas
We
and
got
stuff
some
that we want to do, and
right.
yeah. All right. So we'll get back together. Is there something we want to put in stone right now, or do we just kind of want to wait till next week?
Well, we know for sure we're going to be doing the new Candyman movie after we both see it. So
Right.
that'll be a podcast that's coming soon. And then we'll talk off air. We'll figure something. We'll pick a Brendan Fraser movie or something.
I think we should. I think we should. Monkey Bone.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't seen Monkey Bone in a long time.
Oh, I watched it like a couple months ago.
Folks,
It's,
it might be Monkey Bone.
people forget about Monkey Bone
Chris Kattan is in that movie, right?
briefly. He's the corpse at the end that he
Yeah.
inhabits.
Why
All
do I
right.
know that?
Yeah,
Why
I
do
don't
I
know.
know that?
That's why we're doing this, so we can spout
Yeah.
this useful trivia. All right.
Solid.
Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys for the next episode.